Imagine a world lit only by the soft, dying embers of a heavy stone hearth, where the only clock was the slow, silent rising of the moon over the dark pines. You are not just listening to a story tonight. You are stepping into a forgotten corridor of history, where the past does not shout, but breathes in gentle whispers. Before the ink dries on the ancient pages of our journey, let your breathing find the slow, steady rhythm of a pendulum swinging in a long-forgotten hallway. The modern world, with its restless neon lights and constant digital echoes, is already 1,000 years away. Here, the air is cool, still, and thick with the comforting scent of old parchment and the heavy, sacred silence of centuries. Every muscle in your body is now invited to surrender, to sink like a stone into the deep, dark waters of time. As you settle into this stillness, we find ourselves standing at the entrance of a library that exists outside of time. There is no beginning here, and there is no end. The heavy oak doors have closed silently behind you, sealing out the noise of the century you left behind. In this sanctuary, the only light comes from a single amber candle flame, dancing slowly on a desk of dark mahogany. Watch that flame. See how it bows and sways, a tiny, solitary point of warmth in a vast sea of velvet shadows. It does not struggle against the darkness. It simply exists, casting long, peaceful silhouettes that stretch across the stone floor like quiet guardians of the human spirit. There is a thin, silvery layer of dust upon these shelves, a fine silt left by the passage of uncounted ages. Each speck of dust is a fragment of a lost era, a tiny piece of a kingdom, or a forgotten life that has finally, at long last, found its place of absolute rest. You may have been told that these are merely fairy tales, simple fragments of folklore meant to keep the night at bay. But feel the resonance in these words. These stories are the very architecture of your dreams, the hidden, ancient blueprints of the human heart that have been passed down through the twilight for countless generations. They are the roots that hold us steady when the winds of reality grow too cold. As you listen, your mind begins to resemble a quiet, sun-drenched room at the end of a long, dusty hallway. One by one, the windows of your consciousness are being latched against the night. The heavy wooden shutters are drawn, sealing out the glare of the sun and the weight of your to-do lists. Inside this inner chamber, there is only the softness of the shadows and the steady, calming beat of your own heart. If you find yourself drifting, let it happen. If a thought from the day rises like a ghost, let it float away like a stray spark from the candle's wick, vanishing into the rafters. We are leaving the shore of the everyday behind. The boat is steady. The water is as smooth as black glass. There is no urgency here, no destination other than the deep peace of the narrative. Let us step across the threshold now, leaving the bright, harsh lights of the present for the eternal golden twilight of the brothers Grimm. The path is soft underfoot, the air is sweet with the smell of wild herbs, and the first page is ready to turn. Step forward, into the mist, into the dream, and into the quietest part of history. Take a long, deep breath, and as you exhale, allow your focus to settle entirely upon the physical space you occupy right now. Notice the points where your body meets the surface beneath you, the subtle grounding pressure against your heels, the backs of your legs, and the broad span of your shoulders. Feel the bed as it rises to meet you, a steady and unyielding support that has been waiting all day to carry your weight. There is a profound history in this simple act of lying down, a biological memory of safety that humans have sought since the dawn of time. Imagine that you are sinking into the very earth itself, into a soft layer of cool, ancient moss that remembers every weary traveler who came before you. You are no longer required to hold yourself up, to maintain a posture, or to be ready for action. For this moment, and for all the moments that follow, the ground is your guardian, and the air around you is a sanctuary of absolute stillness. Allow your awareness to drift upward now, moving like a slow, warm light to the very top of your head. Feel the skin of your forehead smoothing out, like the surface of a forest pool when the wind finally dies down. Release the tiny muscles around your eyes, those eyes that have processed 1,000 flickering images today, and let them rest in the velvet darkness of your closed lids. Now, bring your attention to your jaw. So often, We carry the unspoken words and the silent tensions of the day right here, clenched tight without even knowing it. Let it go. Let your jaw hang loose and heavy, creating a space of ease that spreads down into your neck. Feel your shoulders drop away from your ears, falling back and down as if a great weight has been lifted from them. They are like the heavy branches of an ancient oak tree, finally still after a long afternoon of swaying in the breeze. There is no tension here now, only a deep spreading softness that flows down your arms, through your elbows, and out into the very tips of your fingers, which rest as light as fallen leaves upon the covers. Listen to the sound of your own breath. Do not try to change it or force it, simply observe it as it moves in and out of your body like a slow rhythmic tide. Imagine this breath is an ancient ocean, the same ocean that has touched every shore in history, rising and falling with a patience that spans on. With each inhale you are drawing in the cool, revitalizing air of a mountain peak. With each exhale, you are releasing a piece of the day that no longer serves you. Feel your chest rise and fall, a steady pendulum that anchors you to the present. The rhythmic expansion and contraction of your ribs is the only clock that matters now. There's a beautiful quiet power in this rhythm, a pulse that connects you to the slow heartbeat of the earth itself. You are breathing in peace, and you are breathing out the remnants of a world that is fast becoming a distant shadow. As you continue to breathe, you may notice a shift in the way your body feels. Gravity is no longer a harsh force pulling at your limbs. Instead, it is transformed into a warm, heavy blanket, gently embracing you from every side. It is a comforting pressure, the kind that reminds you that you are anchored, safe, and profoundly relaxed. This weight is not a burden, but a blessing, a sign that your body has fully accepted the invitation to rest. You are becoming one with the silence of the room, your physical form dissolving into the shadows until you are as weightless as a dream, yet as grounded as the stones of an old castle. Every cell in your body is beginning to vibrate at a lower, slower frequency, aligning itself with the deep, restorative energy of the night. Every exhale carries a piece of the day away, the bright lights, the loud voices, the hurried footsteps, leaving only an immense crystalline stillness behind. The fragments of your schedule, the echoes of your conversations, and the flickering images of your screen are all being washed away by the tide of your breath. What remains is the core of your being, quiet and undisturbed, like the deep waters beneath a frozen lake. You are a vessel of peace, empty of worry and full of potential for rest. The air in your lungs is the air of the past, cool and untainted, and your heart beats with the steady assurance of one who has found their way home. The night is long, and it belongs entirely to you. Now that your body is a vessel of absolute peace, the boundaries of your room begin to expand and change. The walls seem to move back, replaced by the towering silent trunks of ancient trees. The ceiling opens up to a sky filled with a billion distant silver stars, and the floor beneath you turns into a soft winding trail through a forest that has seen the rise and fall of empires. The air is sweet, with the scent of wild lavender and damp earth, inviting you to take the first step. You are ready to move beyond the physical and into the narrative of the night. The forest path reveals itself to you now, glowing faintly in the moonlight, beckoning you toward the heart of the old world. Step forward, leaving the weight of the self behind, as we follow the silver trail into the deep, enchanting history of the woods. Take a moment now to acknowledge the absolute sanctuary that surrounds you. Within the sacred walls of this story, the outside world has no influence and no voice. The air here is still, held in a perpetual golden suspension that protects you from the rush of time and the heavy demands of the day. You have crossed the threshold into a place where the clocks have stopped, and the only light is the soft silver glow of a timeless moon. This is a fortress of peace, a hidden valley of the mind where you are permitted to be completely, unapologetically still. Every breath you take in this space is a confirmation of your safety, a gentle anchor that holds you steady in the quiet current of the night. You are wrapped in a cocoon of silence, shielded by the vast patient history of the woods that have seen 1,000 winters and yet remain unshakable. Here, there is no need for defense, no need for vigilance, and no need for anything other than your own gentle breathing presence. As we journey further into these ancient tales, you will notice that the world has changed its nature to accommodate your rest. In this retelling, the thorns that once guarded the sleeping castles have turned into soft yielding vines of jasmine and rose, their fragrance a sweet perfume that lulls the senses into a deeper ease. The shadows that flicker between the silver birch trees are not voids of the unknown, but are instead the long, protective cloaks of the forest itself, draped over the landscape to keep the warmth of the earth from escaping. Even the wilder elements of these stories, the deep woods, the mysterious paths, and the silent creatures are all participants in your comfort. The wolves are merely quiet watchers in the distance, their amber eyes reflecting the peace of the stars, and the dark thickets are simply cozy alcoves where the light goes to rest. Every element of the brothers Grimm's world has been softened, its edges rounded by the passage of time and the intention of this moment. The stories have been filtered through the lens of a dream, removing the sharp and the loud, leaving only the rhythmic and the deep. In this realm you are the master of the journey, though you travel without effort. You move through these scenes like a soft breeze, invisible and weightless, a silent observer of wonders. You are perfectly shielded from any harm, held in a state of grace where nothing can disturb the profound tranquility of your spirit. You walk through the most enchanted landscapes with the certainty of a king in his own garden, knowing that every leaf that falls and every star that flickers does so for your benefit. There is a deep ancient magic in being a witness to history while being entirely removed from its friction. You are the dreamer and the dream, a vessel of consciousness, floating in a sea of pure protective intent. No shadow can reach you, and no sound can startle you, for you are woven into the very fabric of the safety that these old woods provide. You are shielded by layers of history, by walls of ancient trees, and by the soft, rhythmic cadence of my voice. Rest your heart now, and let the rhythmic beat of its pulse become the drum to which the forest dances. Within these tales, the only ending is one of quiet joy and profound resolution. There is no conflict that does not dissolve into peace, and no journey that does not lead back to a warm, glowing hearth. The complexity of life has been stripped away, leaving only the simple, beautiful truth of a story well told and a night well spent. You are being carried toward a resolution that is as certain as the sunrise, though the sun is many, many hours away. Feel the tension in your chest finally evaporate, replaced by a lightness that feels like floating on the surface of a calm, dark lake. The stories are waiting to embrace you, and they do so with a kindness that has been refined over centuries of bedside whispers. Every word is a soft cushion, every sentence a gentle hand guiding you toward the threshold of sleep. With this absolute promise of safety held close to your soul, we leave the last remnants of the waking world behind. The path under your feet is now composed of crushed pine needles and soft, damp earth, leading you toward the heart of the mystery. The trees stand as tall, emerald sentinels, their branches interlocking above you to form a canopy of living green. There is a soft, rhythmic humming in the air, the sound of the forest breathing in its sleep, and it beckons you to follow. We walk now into the emerald depth of the trees, where the light is filtered through 1,000 leaves, and the air is cool and sweet. Step forward into the green cathedral, for the first of the old wonders is just ahead, waiting in the silver silence of the clearing. Your journey is protected, your path is clear, and your rest is inevitable. Move deeper into the green, into the quiet, and into the stories that wait for you. You are now stepping fully into the heart of the enchanted woods, a place where the air itself seems to be woven from starlight and eternal silence. The transition is seamless, as if the modern world you knew has simply folded away like a worn map, revealing this ancient, verdant reality beneath. Here, the trees are not merely plants, but towering elders of history, their silver bark etched with the quiet calligraphy of passing ages. The canopy above is so dense and protective that it creates a natural cathedral, where the only light allowed to enter is the soft, ethereal glow of a distant waning moon. Look around you and notice the way the light behaves. It does not fall in sharp lines, but drifts down in luminous motes, settling upon the leaves like a fine dusting of powdered diamonds. Every branch, every twig, and every suspended vine is draped in a translucent mist that softens the edges of the world, making the landscape blend into a beautiful, shadowy dream. This is a land that has never known the bite of a winter's frost or the harsh glare of a summer's sun. It is caught in a perpetual cooling twilight that is perfectly tuned to your rest. Take a deep, slow breath and let the scent of the forest fill your senses. It is a rich, grounding fragrance of damp pine needles and earth that has been nourished by centuries of gentle, rhythmic rain. There is a hint of wild, crushed mint and the faint, sweet perfume of night-blooming jasmine trailing through the air, carried by a breeze that is as light as a whisper against your cheek. As you breathe in, you can almost taste the purity of this place, a freshness that feels like drinking from a hidden mountain spring. Listen closely to the symphony of the night. In the distance, a secret stream trickles over smooth obsidian stones, its voice a constant liquid lullaby that never rises above a murmur. The leaves above you perform a rhythmic, metallic rustle as the wind passes through them, sounding like the soft clinking of silver coins or the turning of 1,000 silk pages in a forgotten book. There is no urgency in these sounds. They are repetitive, predictable, and profoundly calming, creating a sonic blanket that muffles the echoes of the world you left behind. Beneath your feet, the moss is thick and springy, a carpet of emerald velvet that glows with a faint bioluminescent light wherever the moon managed to touch it earlier in the evening. Watch how the silver light catches the dewdrops on the ferns, turning them into strings of liquid pearls that sway gently in the dark. The forest is not a silent void, but a living, breathing entity that has welcomed you into its pulse. Feel the earth beneath the moss. It is steady and warm, radiating the stored peace of 1,000 years of quiet nights. As you watch the slow dance of the shadows on the forest floor, you realize that the forest is breathing with you. Each expansion of your chest is mirrored by the rustle of the canopy. Each slow exhale is echoed by the settling of the mist in the hollows. The ancient pulse of these woods has slowed down to match the rhythm of your own drifting consciousness. You are no longer a visitor. You are a part of the landscape, moving in perfect harmony with the heartbeat of the history that surrounds you. Feel the cool night air washing over your brow now, as gentle as a hand smoothing away the remnants of a long and busy day. It is a cleansing sensation, a mental rinse that clears away every lingering thought, every fragment of a worry, and every unnecessary detail of the waking world. Your mind is becoming as clear and as still as a forest pool at midnight, reflecting only the distant stars and the quiet majesty of the trees. There is nothing you need to remember, and nothing you need to plan. The air carries away the clutter of your mind, leaving behind a vast, peaceful space that is ready to be filled with the soft imagery of old tales. You are light, you are calm, and you are profoundly immersed in the deep protective magic of this enchanted realm. The darkness here is not a wall, but an invitation to see with the heart rather than the eyes. You are safe within the green walls of this history, drifting further away from the noise of the century and closer to the heart of the dream. Just ahead, the path curves toward a clearing where the oldest oak tree in the world stands, its roots reaching down to the very core of the earth, and its branches touching the hem of the heavens. The bark of this tree is white like bone in the moonlight, and its presence is a monument to all the stories that have ever been told. As we approach its gnarled trunk, you can see a thin, translucent coil of mist rising from a hollow in the ancient wood. It is not smoke from a fire, but the essence of a story beginning to stir. It rises and curls like wood smoke in the still air, carrying with it the faint echoes of a name and a place from long ago. The first tale is waking up, stretching its limbs after a century of sleep, ready to carry you further into the dream. Behind the oldest oak, the first tale begins to stir, and the air grows even quieter as the first word of the past prepares to be spoken once more. The story is calling to you, inviting you to follow its trail of silver words into the deep, quiet night. The voice lowers now, drifting into a deeper, more resonant frequency that hums softly against the absolute stillness of the enchanted woods. Around you, the vibrant symphony of the forest, the trickling of the obsidian stream, the rhythmic rustling of the high canopy, and the distant, fading call of the night bird begins to pull back, receding into a soft, indistinct murmur. It is as if the landscape itself is holding its breath in reverent anticipation, leaning in to catch the very first syllable of the ancient narrative. The air grows heavy with a comfortable silver weight, pressing gently against your eyelids and inviting you to surrender the last flickering remnants of your alertness. You are no longer standing upon a physical path. You are floating in the quiet, sacred space between the waking world and the dream, where the atmosphere is thick with the slow-moving magic of once upon a time. Imagine, in the center of the moonlit clearing, a giant, ancient book resting upon an altar of moss-covered stone. Its leather cover is worn smooth by the silent touch of 1,000 years, and as a stray cooling breeze passes through the glade, the brittle golden pages begin to turn on their own. Listen to the dry, rhythmic whisper of the paper, a sound like autumn leaves skittering across a marble floor, or the soft sigh of a sleeper in a distant room. Each page that flips brings you closer to the heart of the mystery, and with every movement of the paper, the boundary between the ancient ink and your own mind begins to dissolve. The words are no longer external sounds to be analyzed. They are becoming your own thoughts, rising within you without effort, as natural as the ebb and flow of a midnight tide. Sink deeper now, into the cushioning embrace of the dark, for this first story is not just a tale, but a cradle made of the softest, heaviest velvet, designed to hold your spirit in perfect, undisturbed peace. You are being carried by a slow current of ancient wisdom, moving toward a memory of a world that was simpler, slower, and infinitely more magical. The mist thickens around you, turning the silver woods into a vast canvas of pure white silence. Once, in a village blanketed by the quietest, deepest snow, where the chimneys breathed thin trails of wood smoke into a frozen violet sky, our journey truly began. Once upon a time, in a world that moved to the slow, steady, and unhurried heartbeat of the changing seasons, there lived a dear little girl. She was the light of her small, timbered village, a child whose very presence seemed to bring a soft, golden warmth to the narrow cobblestone streets and the quiet garden. Everyone who looked upon her felt an immediate sense of peace, a feeling like the first rays of spring sun hitting a frosted window. But among all who knew her, no one loved her more than her grandmother. This grandmother was a woman of the earth, with hands as weathered and wise as the bark of an ancient oak tree, and a heart that served as a vast, bottomless treasury of kindness and old-world stories. For the girl's birthday, the grandmother had spent many long, quiet evenings by the dying embers of her hearth, her silver needle moving in a rhythmic dance as she stitched together a cap of the finest, heaviest red velvet. It was not a bright, jarring red, but a deep, rich crimson, the color of a setting sun sinking behind a heavy veil of autumn mist. When the girl first placed it upon her head, the fabric did not just sit there. It felt like a gentle, perpetual hug from someone who loved her beyond the reach of time. The velvet was so incredibly soft that it felt like the downy underside of a butterfly's wing, and it carried within its fibers the faint, comforting scent of dried lavender, cedar wood, and pressed rose petals from the grandmother's antique chest. From that day forward, the girl refused to wear anything else. She wore it while gathering berries, she wore it while watching the clouds, and she wore it as she drifted to sleep. And so, the villagers, in their fond, slow, and rhythmic way of speaking, began to call her nothing but Little Red Cap. One quiet morning, when the silver dew still clung to the blades of grass like scattered diamonds, and the air carried the crisp, cool promise of a peaceful day, her mother called her into the heart of their home. The kitchen was a sanctuary of warmth, filled with the thick, intoxicating scent of browning butter, toasted grains, and wild forest honey. Upon the heavy wooden table sat a sturdy, hand-woven wicker basket. It was lined with a clean, heavy white linen cloth, a cloth that had been washed in the stream and bleached to a brilliant purity by the summer sun. "Take these to your grandmother," her mother whispered, her voice falling as soft as the shifting white embers in the iron stove. "Inside this basket, you will find a piece of fresh cake, still radiating the warmth of the oven, and a bottle of fine wine to strengthen her weary heart. She is feeling weak and ill, and these small gifts from our home will bring her the comfort she needs. Walk with a steady, mindful pace. Stay upon the well-worn path that the ancestors trod, and do not stray into the deep brush. The woods are profound and full of ancient secrets that prefer to remain undisturbed by hurried feet. Little Red Cap nodded slowly, her small hand reaching out to grip the smooth arched handle of the basket. The texture of the wicker was rough, honest, and grounding against her palm, a tactile reminder of the simple, beautiful task ahead of her. She promised her mother she would be careful, and with one final lingering look at the safety of her hearth, she stepped out of the cottage door and into the vast emerald embrace of the great forest. The path began as a wide, sun-drenched lane where the dust was warm and soft beneath her boots. But as she journeyed further, the trees seemed to lean in closer, their ancient branches interlocking high above to form a canopy of living jade. The light here was no longer direct. It was filtered through countless layers of translucent leaves, transforming into a soft greenish haze that felt like walking through a dream made of silk and shadow. Little Red Cap did not hurry. She allowed her pace to match the slow breathing of the woods. Her small boots made a faint, rhythmic, and hypnotic crunching sound upon the carpet of dried pine needles and soft, damp earth. To her left and to her right, the undergrowth was a silent riot of quiet color. She saw wood anemones, their petals as white and delicate as fine eggshell porcelain, swaying in a breeze so light it was almost imperceptible. She passed clusters of bluebells that seemed to hold the very essence of the midnight sky in their tiny drooping bells. She paused for a long still moment to observe a patch of wild strawberries. Their tiny red globes were hidden beneath sawtooth leaves, glowing like miniature embers in the deep, cool shade. For her, the forest was not a place of mystery or danger, but a vast living tapestry of textures, sounds, and scents. She reached out her free hand to touch the trunk of a silver birch, feeling the papery, peeling bark beneath her fingertips, a texture that reminded her of the ancient brittle scrolls kept in the silent libraries of old. As she moved deeper into the heart of the trees, the silence became more profound, a heavy, comfortable, and protective blanket of soundlessness. The only music in the air was the distant, liquid trill of a woodlark and the rhythmic, deep sighing of the wind as it moved through the high canopy like a slow tide. Little Red Cap noticed the way the moss grew thick and lush on the north side of the trunks, a vibrant, electric green that felt like damp, heavy velvet to the touch. She looked down at her basket again, watching the way the dappled sunlight played upon the weave of the wicker, casting intricate, latticed shadows across the white linen cloth. Inside, the cake was a comforting solid weight, its sweetness mingling with the sharp, earthy scent of the pines and the resinous breath of the forest. She felt a sense of profound belonging, as if she were a single precious stitch in the great green embroidery of the existence. The trees seemed to acknowledge her presence, their leaves shimmering in a silent silver greeting as she passed beneath them. There was no need to rush, no need to worry about the ticking of a clock or the passing of the hours, for in the heart of these woods, time was as still as a fallen log covered in ferns. It was then, in a sun-dappled clearing where the ferns grew as tall as her waist, and the air was heavy with the scent of wild herbs, that she encountered the wolf. He did not emerge from the shadows with a snarl or a snap of teeth. Instead, he seemed to coalesce slowly from the grey mist of the trees, a magnificent and noble creature with a thick coat, the color of wood smoke and eyes like polished, ancient amber. Little Red Cap felt no fear, for in this safe retelling, the wolf was not a predator of the dark, but a silent guardian of the deep places, a grey guide into the mystery of the old world. He sat quietly upon his haunches, his long tail sweeping a slow rhythmic path through the forest dust. His presence was grounding, a physical manifestation of the forest's own wild and silent wisdom. He looked at her with a gaze that was both ancient and incredibly kind, as if he had been waiting for her to arrive at this exact spot since the very beginning of time. He spoke not with a loud voice, but with a resonant presence that hummed in the quiet corners of her mind, inviting her to look beyond the narrow path and see the true, hidden wonders of the woods. He gestured with a subtle, graceful tilt of his head toward a grove of hazel trees, where the light fell in long, vertical shafts of gold. See how the sunbeams dance upon the hazel leaves, the silence of the forest seemed to say. See how the wild flowers turn their delicate faces to the hidden light. Why do you hurry toward a single destination when the journey itself is a garden of infinite peace? Little Red Cap looked, and for the first time in her young life, she truly saw the magic of the present moment. She saw the dragonflies with wings like spun glass hovering over a dark, still pool. She saw the spiderwebs jeweled with morning dew, spanning the gaps between the ferns like bridges made of silver thread. The wolf moved beside her now, his footsteps as silent as a falling leaf, his grey flank occasionally brushing against her red velvet cap like a passing summer cloud. He was showing her the secret, hidden heartbeat of the earth, the slow and steady pulse that sustains all living things. With him as her silent, powerful companion, the forest felt even larger, even deeper, and even more protective. What? She began to gather a bouquet of wild flowers, moving slowly from one patch of color to another. She picked a white starflower here, a purple vetch there, and a handful of yellow cowslips. With each flower she added to her hand, she felt the weight of her responsibilities drifting further and further away. The wolf watched her with patient amber eyes, his breath a slow and steady rhythm that seemed to anchor the entire clearing in peace. The sun moved imperceptibly across the sky, painting long golden streaks upon the moss. But here, under the protection of the Grey Guardian, there was no such thing as being late. There was only the scent of the petals, the softness of the air, and the deep, unshakable certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be. With every slow step she takes alongside her grey-furred guide, you may find that your own eyelids are growing heavier, settling down with a gravity of rest that cannot be resisted. The rhythm of her walking left, right, becomes the very rhythm of your own heart, slowing down, finding its natural, nocturnal pace. The image of the bright red cap and the vast smoke-grey wolf begins to blur gently at the edges, turning into a soft, impressionistic wash of color in your mind's eye. You are walking with her now, feeling the cool, oxygen-rich air of the deep woods on your skin and the absolute total safety of the guardian at your side. The weight of your day has been replaced by the light, purposeful weight of the wicker basket, and the noise of your life has been drowned out by the gentle, repetitive rustle of the hazel grove. You are drifting, you are sinking, and you are surrendering to this beautiful slow-motion journey through the ancient trees. The path eventually leads them toward a small, charming thatched cottage that sits nestled in the protective crook of an ancient flower-covered hillside. Its small windows glow with a soft, inviting, and flickering light from within. The wolf pauses at the edge of the garden, his task as a guide complete for today. He offers a final silent blessing with his amber gaze before fading back into the silver mist of the trees. Little Red Cap reaches the heavy wooden door, her small hand resting for a moment on the iron latch, which is cool, smooth, and familiar from years of visits. As she presses the door open and steps over the threshold, the profound, unshakable peace of the deep woods follows her inside like a loyal shadow, filling the small, cozy room with the scent of pine needles and the absolute stillness of the stars. The cottage is a sanctuary within a sanctuary, a place where the fire in the stone hearth is burning low and the shadows on the walls are long, soft, and kind. The story of the forest has found its resting place for the night, and as the door clicks shut with a soft wooden thud, the silence of the night settles over the chimney, holding the entire world in a warm velvet and eternal embrace. The grandmother is waiting in the soft shadows, the tea is warm, and the dream is just beginning to take a firm hold of your tired mind. You are safe. You are still. You are home. As the door of the grandmother's cottage gently closes in your mind, let the rich image of the red velvet and the emerald leaves begin to fade into a soft, indistinct blur of silver and grey. Gradually, almost imperceptibly, allow your awareness to drift back from the deep ancient woods of the past and return to the quiet, sacred sanctuary of your own room. Feel the cool, pine-scented air of the forest transition into the familiar, comforting warmth of your personal space, a warmth that is unique to your own rest. You are here, anchored in the present moment, held securely by the velvet silence of the night. Notice the weight of your own body again, not as a burden to be carried, but as a peaceful, solid reality, resting profoundly upon your bed. The journey through the trees was but a gentle ripple on the surface of your deep consciousness, and now, that water is becoming perfectly still, as smooth as black glass beneath a moonlit sky. Listen to the hush of your surroundings, where the only sound is the faint, distant hum of the world outside, which serves only to remind you of how secluded, how protected, and how safe you are within these four walls. Take a long, slow moment to check the comfort of your surroundings. Feel the specific, soft texture of the blankets as they drape over you, perhaps noticing the way the heavy fabric holds the natural warmth of your own body, creating a private microclimate of perfect restorative temperature. Adjust your position if you need to, but do so with the slow, languid movements of someone who is already half submerged in the world of dreams. Listen to the rhythmic, oceanic sound of your own breathing, a steady, comforting pulse that has guided you through the first story and is now ready to carry you into the next layer of sleep. Your breath is the bridge between the world of waking and the world of dreaming, and right now, it is as calm and undisturbed as a mirror in a dark room. In this moment of absolute, crystalline stillness, you realize a beautiful and liberating truth. The forest, the red cap, and the amber-eyed wolf were all beautiful fragments of a dream you were invited to visit. You are the dreamer, the silent architect of these ancient visions, and you are perfectly, profoundly safe in your bed. The walls around you are strong, the night is kind, and the world is at rest. There is nothing you need to do, nothing you need to remember, and nowhere else you need to go. You are simply a consciousness, floating in a vast warm sea of peace. You are drifting deeper now, sinking into the soft layers of the mattress as if it were the finest, deepest moss in the heart of the woods. Even as the village and the cottage recede into the mists of history, the spirit of the forest remains as a quiet guardian, watching over your sleep from the very edges of your mind. The stillness of the ancient oaks has now become the stillness of your own heart. You are sinking, surrendering, and letting go of the self. But far away, across a valley of silver mist, and through a curtain of uncounted stars, in a high tower of shimmering gold that catches the last ethereal light of a forgotten sun, another whisper begins to stir in the silence. It is a story of long golden hair and high stone walls, a tale of Rapunzel waiting quietly to be told. Once upon a time, in a far-off kingdom where the ancient mountains touched the velvet hem of the clouds, and the deep valleys were filled with the intoxicating silver scent of wild thyme and damp earth, there stood a tower that seemed to have been carved from a single giant and eternal sunbeam. This tower was a marvel of the old world, a solitary pillar of warm golden stone rising majestically from a vast sea of emerald brambles and silver-leafed trees that whispered secrets to the wind. It had no door for the restless to enter, and no stairs for the weary to climb. It was a monument to solitude, reaching toward the heavens in a state of perpetual golden grace. At the very top of this golden spire, beneath a steep roof of shimmering grey slate that caught the moonlight like the scales of a sleeping dragon, lived a maiden named Rapunzel. She was a child of the deep twilight, a girl whose beauty was not composed of the sharp, demanding glare of the midday sun, but of the soft, lingering, and ethereal glow that remains in the sky long after the stars have begun to wake from their celestial slumber. Her most extraordinary gift, a wonder that surpassed all the treasures of the earth, was her hair, a cascading, endless river of spun gold that, when unbraided, flowed down the immense length of the tower like a silent, glowing waterfall of light. It was as soft as the finest silk woven by moonlight, and carried within its infinite strands the faint, airy scent of mountain mist, pressed apple blossoms, and the cool breath of the high altitudes. To Rapunzel, her hair was not merely a part of her physical form. It was her sacred connection to the earth far below and the heavens high above, a shimmering golden thread that tied her soul to the ancient, slow-moving rhythms of the natural world. Rapunzel's days in the Golden Tower were measured not by the ticking of mechanical clocks or the frantic pace of human ambition, but by the slow, deliberate movement of the shadows as they stretched across her smooth stone floor. She spent her long, quiet afternoons by the arched window, watching the great eagles soar in the invisible updrafts and listening to the wind as it whispered through the ancient crags of the surrounding mountains. Her voice was a melody of pure crystalline clarity, a song that traveled through the cool air, like a white bird on the wing, effortless and free. When she sang, the very stones of the tower seemed to vibrate with a low, grounding, and comforting hum, and the birds in the deep forest below would pause their own music to listen in silent reverence. The world within the tower was a world of exquisite textures and sensory peace. She felt the cool, smooth touch of the marble windowsill against her arms. She felt the radiating warmth of the afternoon sun as it bathed her skin in gold, and she listened to the rhythmic, meditative sound of her heavy wooden comb passing through the infinite silken strands of her golden hair. Every single stroke of the comb was a slow, purposeful movement, a ritual of immense patience that stretched into the long, honey-colored hours of the evening. It was a life of profound, unhurried peace, a beautiful and sacred sanctuary where the frantic noise of the modern world was replaced by the soft rustle of silk and the gentle rhythmic breathing of the mountain wind. In the center of her circular room sat a great loom made of dark, polished walnut, wood that shone like deep water. Here, Rapunzel would weave the stories of the passing clouds and the shifting seasons into magnificent tapestries of silver, violet, and deep indigo blue. Her hands moved over the threads with a grace that was almost hypnotic to behold, the wooden shuttle flying back and forth like a small boat gliding across the surface of a perfectly calm lake. Click-clack, click-clack. The sound was a steady percussive lullaby that anchored her spirit to the present moment, leaving no room for worry or haste. She would weave the silent memory of the first winter snowfall, the delicate texture of a dragonfly's iridescent wing, and the deep, velvet green of the mossy forest floor far beneath her. As she worked the loom, she felt a sense of absolute crystalline harmony with the entire universe, as if her own steady heartbeat was in perfect rhythmic sync with the slow geological pulse of the ancient mountains that stood as her silent guardians. One evening, as the vast sky turned the color of a bruised plum, and the very first star flickered like a lonely diamond in the east, a young prince came riding through the silent valley. He was not a man of war, nor was he driven by the hollow hunger of ambition. Instead, he was a seeker of silence, a traveler who preferred the quiet company of the ancient trees to the loud and crowded clamor of the royal court. As he approached the golden tower, he heard a sound so pure, so ethereal, and so profoundly beautiful that he stopped his horse beneath the canopy of the silver-leaf trees. It was Rapunzel singing her evening song, her voice drifting down through the twilight like a rain of starlight. The prince felt a sudden heavy weightlessness in his chest, as if the song were gently lifting the very gravity of his life away, leaving only peace in its wake. He looked up through the mist and saw the golden hair cascading down the side of the golden stone, a glowing, shimmering path leading toward the heavens. In this version of the ancient tale, there was no fear, no urgency, and no darkness. There was only the predestined meeting of two spirits, who had both, in their own way, found their path to the very heart of the great silence. The prince climbed the golden ladder of hair, not with the effort of a climber, but with the soaring sensation of rising through a beautiful lucid dream. When he finally reached the arched room at the top, he found a space that felt as large, as open, and as welcoming as the night sky itself. Rapunzel looked at him with eyes that held the terrifying depth of ancient forest pools, and she saw in his tired face a reflection of the very same peace that she carried in her own soul. They sat together by the high window, their shoulders touching lightly, watching the full moon rise in a slow silver arc over the jagged mountain peaks. They did not need many words to bridge the distance between them, for the silence that lived in the tower was full of a deep, wordless understanding. They talked in low, murmuring tones of the way the emerald moss grows on the north side of the weathered rocks, and the way the long shadows of autumn dance across the valley floor. Their conversation was a slow, meandering stream of thought, flowing without direction, without demand, and without urgency. With every soft word spoken in that quiet, golden room, the world outside the tower became more distant, more blurred, and more beautifully irrelevant. As they sat in the warm ambient glow of the tower, the prince noticed the way Rapunzel's hair seemed to fill the entire space with a soft liquid light. It lay across the floor in heavy golden coils, a physical, shimmering manifestation of the slow passage of peaceful time. He reached out with a steady hand and touched a single glowing strand, finding it as warm as a summer sunbeam and as smooth as the surface of a crystal mirror. Together, they began the task of braiding the golden hair back together, a rhythmic, repetitive, and deeply calming task that required no conscious thought, only the steady, alternating movement of their fingers. Over and under, over and under. The repetition of the movement became a gateway into a deeper and more profound state of rest. With every pass of the golden strands, the prince felt the last lingering tension in his shoulders dissolve into the air, and Rapunzel felt the final remnants of her solitude transform into a shared, beautiful, and eternal stillness. They were weaving a cocoon of absolute peace, a shared dream that existed far, far above the reach of the waking world. With every golden strand they braid in your mind's eye, you may feel your own thoughts becoming more fluid, more distant, and more like the drifting white clouds that float over the mountain peaks. The rhythm of this story, the golden tower, the silver trees, the silent prince, and the cascading hair, is the very rhythm of your own drifting, peaceful mind. You are rising with them now, moving far above the noise, the light, and the heat of your day, into a high place where the air is thin, pure, and cool, and the only sound is the soft, rhythmic rustle of the golden hair, as it is coiled for the night. Your eyelids are becoming like the heavy grey slate of the tower roof, settling down over your eyes with a natural, inevitable, and welcome weight. The image of the high window and the silver moon is turning into a soft glowing point of light in the very center of your consciousness, a light that is now slowly, gently, and perfectly fading into a deep, velvety, and protective dark. Your breathing is a slow tide, your heart is a calm drum, and the golden silence of the tower is embracing you in its arms. The story of the tower eventually settles into its final quiet resolution. The prince and Rapunzel remain in their golden sanctuary, two silent guardians of the peace, watching over the sleeping world from their magnificent height. The mountains stand as eternal, stone sentinels around them, their ancient faces softened and smoothed by the silver moonlight. As the final braid is finished, and the golden hair is coiled like a sleeping, benevolent dragon on the floor, the light within the tower grows dim and soft. The stars move in their slow celestial dance across the heavens, and the night wind carries the sweet scent of the apple blossoms through the open window and into your room. The dream of the golden tower is now your own dream, a place of absolute safety, infinite height, and perfect stillness. You are sinking, you are surrendering, and you are finally finding your way to the very heart of the golden silence. The door to the waking world is closed, and the path to the stars is wide open. Sleep now, for the tower is holding you. The mountains are whispering your name, and there is nothing left but the moon, the silence, and the deep, dark, and endless sea of rest. As the last golden echoes of the high tower begin to dissolve into the silver mist of your mind, let the rich image of the sun-carved mountains and the shimmering golden tresses soften and pull away. You are gently returning from that high, sacred sanctuary, drifting back like a single white feather, falling through a perfectly still night sky, until you settle once again into the quiet, heavy reality of your own bed. The golden light of Rapunzel's chamber has transformed into the familiar, velvet darkness of your own room. A darkness that is not a void, but a warm, protective, and profound embrace. Feel the transition from the thin, crisp air of the mountain peaks to the heavy, comforting stillness of your personal sanctuary. You are here, anchored in the absolute safety of the now, where the only requirement is the rhythmic, slow expansion of your chest and the complete, final surrender of your weight to the soft surface beneath you. Take a deep, slow breath, and notice how the blankets have become like a second skin, a layer of soft security that shields you from the rest of the world. The warmth you feel is entirely your own, a steady and life-giving glow that signals to every cell in your body that it is time to rest, to heal, and to let go. Your muscles are like the heavy ancient stones of the tower, solid, still, and perfectly at peace with the earth. Listen to the hush that has settled over your home. It is a profound silence that respects your need for sleep. Any distant sound from the street or the whisper of the wind is merely a lullaby, a soft reminder that while the world continues its slow rotation, you have found a place where time has no power over you. In this crystalline moment of return, acknowledge the deep safety that surrounds you like a cocoon. The story of the tower was a bridge, and you have crossed it into a state of pure, undisturbed being. You are the dreamer, and this room is your fortress of solitude. There are no walls to climb, and no towers to guard. There is only the soft oceanic pulse of your own breathing. You are drifting deeper now, sinking past the layers of thought and memory, into the dark, fertile soil of deep, restorative sleep. The forest and the tower remain in the distance, as quiet sentinels watching over your peace, ensuring that your rest is undisturbed and absolute. You are sinking, you are floating, and you are becoming one with the night. But even as you sink into the darkness, a new whisper begins to stir on the far silver horizon of your mind. Beyond the mountains and across a sea of dark glass, a different light is flickering, a small, humble light from a cottage where the fire never goes out, and 7 small chairs wait in the long shadows. A new journey is preparing to unfold, a tale of Snow White and the hidden quiet, depths of the earth, beckoning you further into the dream. Step away from the gold and toward the silver shadows, for the next story is already breathing your name in the silence. Your heart is ready, your mind is open, and the path is once again revealed. Once upon a time, in the quiet, silver heart of a kingdom that slept deeply and securely beneath the protective, jagged shadows of ancient, snow-capped mountains, there lived a princess named Snow White. She was not a creature of the loud, burning sun or the frantic, restless energy of the waking day, but a daughter of the winter's first silence, a being whose very essence was as calm, as steady, and as pure as the fallen snow that blanketed the valley floors in the deep, velvet months of the year. Her skin was as white as the unblemished marble of a mountain peak, her lips as red as the last, stubborn berries of autumn clinging to a frozen vine, and her hair as black as the midnight sky when the stars have hidden themselves behind a heavy, protective veil of soft, drifting clouds. She moved through the long, echoing corridors of her father's castle like a gentle, rhythmic breath, her presence a soothing balm to all who encountered her in the halls. But the world of the court was sharp, filled with mirrors that reflected only the vanity of the waking mind and the noise of the surface, and so guided by a quiet inner pull toward the grounding weight of the earth, Snow White found herself drifting slowly away from the stone walls and into the vast emerald green sea of the great forest. The forest did not receive her with thorns or shadows, but opened its wide arms like an old wise mother welcoming a tired child home after a long and weary journey. As she walked deeper into the heart of the woods, the air grew cooler, richer, and more infused with the intoxicating scent of damp earth, crushed ferns, and the slow, resinous breathing of the ancient pines that had stood for 1,000 years. Every step she took was a quiet negotiation with the moss, a slow and deliberate movement that felt like sinking into a deep, soft cushion. The light here was a soft, filtered indigo, a subterranean glow that made the thick moss beneath her feet seem to hum with a low, bioluminescent energy. She walked for hours, her pace slowing with every measured and mindful step, her mind shedding the heavy weight of the kingdom like a discarded cloak. The further she traveled into the green, the more she felt herself submerging into the deep, rhythmic pulse of the living world. The trees here were so ancient that their roots reached down into the very foundations of the world, and their branches reached up to touch the soft silver hem of the dream space. She felt perfectly shielded, perfectly hidden, and perfectly at peace within this vast green cathedral of absolute unshakable silence. Deep within a hollow where the silver mist pooled like still, dark water, she came upon a small, humble cottage, nestled between the gnarled protective roots of 7 massive oaks. It was a dwelling made of smooth gray river stone and aged cedar wood, its thatched roof covered in a thick, insulating carpet of emerald moss that dampened every sound from the outside world. Snow White stepped over the threshold, and as she did, the profound stillness of the earth followed her inside like a loyal shadow. The room was a sanctuary of miniature order and rhythmic peace. 7 small beds were lined up against the far wall, each covered in a heavy hand-woven quilt of thick, warm sheep's wool that smelled of sun-dried hay and wild chamomile. 7 small chairs sat around a low wooden table, their surfaces polished to a dull, comforting sheen by the touch of many quiet evenings. Everything was scaled to the rhythm of the earth, small, sturdy, and profoundly grounded in the peace of the soil. Snow White did not feel like an intruder in the sacred space. She felt like a fragment of an ancient story, finally finding its rightful place in the great book of time. She moved toward the hearth, where the fire was a low, pulsing glow of orange embers, radiating a steady, hypnotic heat that seemed to vibrate deep in her very bones. She felt a deep, overwhelming sense of tiredness, a beautiful, heavy fatigue that was not of the physical body, but of the soul itself. She lay down across the beds, feeling the incredible, grounding support of the wooden frames and the soft, enveloping embrace of the wool. As she closed her eyes, she could hear the rhythmic, subterranean music of the forest, the slow, tectonic shifting of the rocks deep underground, the steady drip of water in the limestone caves, and the collective, low-frequency hum of the 7 guardians who worked in the lightless, peaceful depths of the mountains. These guardians were not creatures of the surface world. They were the masters of the deep, the keepers of the earth's hidden crystalline treasures. Far beneath the cottage, in the vast, echoing caverns of the mountain, they worked with a rhythmic, meditative precision that never faltered. The sound of their silver hammers against the white quartz was not a sharp noise, but a delicate musical vibration that echoed through the stone like a slow, steady, and eternal heartbeat. They were not seeking gold for greed, but were polishing the very foundations of the world, ensuring that the roots of the trees stayed strong and the hidden springs of the earth stayed pure and cold. Their labor was a form of worship, a slow and steady movement that had no beginning and no end. The rhythm of their work, the strike, the breath, the silence became the rhythm of Snow White's own breathing, pulling her deeper and deeper into the dark, fertile layers of the mountain's consciousness. You are now descending with her, moving past the surface of the dream, and into the deep delta wave stillness of the inner earth. Feel the incredible, massive weight of the mountain above you, not as a pressure, but as a vast protective blanket that shields you from every vibration, every flicker, and every noise of the waking world. You are moving through corridors of smooth, cool obsidian, where the air is perfectly still and perfectly pure. The light here is a soft, pulsing violet, the color of the deep mind at absolute rest. With every rhythmic strike of the silver hammers in the distance, your awareness of your physical body is dissolving, replaced by a sense of being as vast, as solid, and as eternal as the stone itself. You are sinking through the layers of history, through the ancient sediment of time, down into the bedrock of absolute, undisturbed silence. Every layer of stone above you is a layer of safety, a shield against the light and the noise of the sun. The story of Snow White is now a story of total submersion, of a spirit finding its home in the quietest, most stable depths of the world. There is no queen, no mirror, and no apple here. There is only the rhythmic breathing of the 7 oaks, the steady pulse of the mountain heart, and the absolute safety of the dark. The cottage, the quilts, and the amber fire are all merging into a single unified field of peace. You are the mountain, you are the forest, and you are the dreamer resting in the center of it all. Your thoughts have become like slow-moving underground rivers, flowing without effort through the ancient channels of the earth. Everything is slow. Everything is heavy. Everything is perfectly, beautifully still. You are drifting away from the surface of life, moving into the profound, dark layers of a sleep that has no end and no beginning. The pulse of the earth is your pulse, and the silence of the stone is your silence. Imagine the silence deepening even further, expanding like a slow-moving cloud of ink in clear water. Each tree, root above you, acts as a filter, straining out the remaining noise of the stars and the moon. You are held in a vault of time where 1,000 years pass in the space of a single, slow inhalation. The mountain does not just surround you, it acknowledges you, recognizing the stillness in your bones as a reflection of its own geological peace. The silver hammers of the guardians have been placed upon velvet cloths, and the giants of the deep have found their own resting places in the hollows of the court. The fire in the cottage hearth has settled into a single glowing coal, a heart of amber that will never truly go cold. You are sinking past the reach of light, past the reach of sound, and into the pure dark origin of all things. The silence is absolute, the safety is infinite, and the rest is inevitable. As the guardians finally finish their rhythmic work for the night and lay down their silver hammers, a profound final silence settles over the crystalline caverns. The mountain holds its breath, and the forest above remains motionless beneath the silver gaze of the moon. Snow White is now deep within the dream, her heartbeat a slow, distant echo of the earth's own core. You are there with her, wrapped in the velvet quilts of the night, protected by 7 layers of stone and 7 layers of silence. The world above is a fading memory, a distant flicker on the surface of a deep, dark pool. You are submerged. You are safe. You are home in the heart of the earth. Every breath you take is a confirmation of your safety, a gentle anchor that holds you steady in the quiet current of the deep. Sleep now, for the mountain is your cradle, and the darkness is your light. There is only the breath, the pulse, and the infinite, restorative sea of the deep. Your mind is quiet, your body is still, and the earth is holding you in its eternal silent embrace. You are drifting, you are sinking, and you are finally completely at rest. There is nothing left but the deep, steady rhythm of the world at rest, holding you in a warm, stone-still embrace that will never let you go. As the rhythmic, grounding pulse of the silver hammers fades into the deep, dark bedrock of Koi, the ancient mountain, let the lingering image of the 7 oaks and the moss-covered cottage begin to drift away like soft smoke in a perfectly still room. You are gently rising from the cool crystalline depths of the earth, floating upward through silent layers of stone and through the network of ancient reaching roots, until you find yourself resting once again in the soft, familiar sanctuary of your own bed. The pulsing violet light of the subterranean caverns has dissolved, replaced by the comforting velvety darkness of your own room, a space that knows you, a space that holds you in absolute unshakable safety. Feel the transition from the heavy grounded peace of the mountain stone to the light, airy, and rhythmic stillness of your home. You are here, anchored in the present moment, where the only movement is the slow tidal rise and fall of your own chest as you breathe the quiet air of the night. Take a long, slow, and mindful breath and feel the incredible warmth that has pooled beneath your heavy blankets. This warmth is a soft, protective shield, a gentle and invisible boundary between you and the noise of the waking world. Your body feels beautifully heavy and relaxed, as if the very stillness of the mountain stone has stayed with you, grounding your limbs and quieting the final echoes of your mind. Listen to the hush of the night around you. It is a thick, kind, and protective silence that wraps itself around your thoughts like a ribbon of cool silk. There is no urgency here, no tasks left to complete, and no path you need to follow. You are exactly where you are meant to be, cradled in the very heart of a perfect, restorative, and deep rest. In this moment of return, acknowledge the profound and crystalline peace that resides within you. The story of the earth was a journey into your own inner depths, and you have returned with a heart that is steady and a mind that is clear of all shadows. You are the dreamer, safe and secure in your fortress of quilts and soft shadows. The mountain and the guardians remain as distant, fading echoes quiet, sentinels ensuring that your sleep continues uninterrupted, as deep and as stable as the earth itself. You are sinking further into the mattress, letting go of the very last threads of the day, moving into a state of pure, wordless, and peaceful existence. But even as you settle into this perfect radiating warmth, a new delicate whisper begins to form on the far edge of your consciousness. Far beyond the forest and the high mountains, across a wide meadow where the grass is as soft as a sigh, a glass carriage is moving silently through the silver moonlight. A new story is beginning to breathe in the darker tale of Cinderella and the quiet magic of the midnight hour, beckoning you to follow its shimmering, starlit trail. Step away from the stone and move toward the starlight, for the next dream is waiting to carry you even deeper into the heart of the night. Your journey is not yet over, and the peace is only growing deeper with every breath you take, moving now from the weight of the earth to the lightness of the stars. Once upon a time, In a kingdom where the borders were defined by the soft emerald curves of ancient hills and the silver threads of winding rivers, there lived a young princess. She was a being of light and movement, a girl whose presence was as refreshing as the first dew of a spring morning. On the long golden afternoons when the sun hung low and heavy in the sky, she would seek out the cool dark shade of the royal gardens. There, beneath the spreading branches of a linden tree that was older than the castle itself, sat a well of profound and mysterious depth. The water within was so still and so dark that it looked like a polished mirror of black obsidian, reflecting nothing but the high distant clouds and the overhanging leaves. The princess loved this place for its absolute stillness, and the way the air felt like cool silk against her skin. She would sit for hours, her back against the rough bark of the tree, watching the light change on the surface of the stones, feeling the deep subterranean peace of the well rising up to meet her. She carried with her a favorite toy, a ball of solid, shimmering gold. This golden sphere was her most precious possession, a perfect circle that felt heavy and grounding in her small palm. As she sat by the edge of the dark well, she would toss the ball high into the air, watching it catch the sunlight until it glowed like a miniature sun against the deep indigo of the sky. Then she would watch it fall, a brilliant streak of yellow light descending back into her waiting hands. The movement was rhythmic and repetitive, a visual lullaby of rising and falling gold. Up and down, light and shadow, the golden ball traced a path of perfect geometry in the air, its surface reflecting the green of the trees and the blue of the heavens in a distorted, beautiful curve. The texture of the gold was smooth and cool, a solid weight that anchored her to the present moment. With each throw, her breathing became more synchronized with the arc of the ball, creating a private world of motion and stillness. One afternoon, the rhythm was interrupted. The princess tossed the ball higher than usual, and instead of returning to her hand, it missed her fingertips and struck the stone edge of the well. It bounced once, twice, and then vanished with a silent, spreading ripple into the dark, cool water. She leaned over the edge, her eyes searching the depths, but the golden ball was gone, swallowed by the profound and unmoving dark. The surface of the well, once a perfect mirror, was now a series of expanding concentric circles, each one a delicate distortion of the world above. The ripples moved slowly, outward and outward, until they touched the mossy stone walls and faded into the stillness once again. The princess felt a sudden heavy sense of loss, a weight in her chest that matched the weight of the ball, now resting on the unseen floor of the deep. She watched the water settle, waiting for a glint of gold that did not come, feeling the immense silence of the garden closing in around her like a soft, heavy cloak. It was then that a small, vibrant movement caught her eye at the edge of the water. From the shadows of the damp stones, a head emerged, followed by a body of brilliant, electric emerald. It was a frog, but not an ordinary one. His skin was a masterpiece of nature, a deep, saturated green that seemed to hold the very essence of the forest. Along his back were patterns of darker olive and speckles of gold that shimmered like hidden jewels when he moved. His eyes were large, unblinking orbs of liquid amber, reflecting the princess's own face in their wide, quiet depths. He sat perfectly still, a small living emerald against the grey, weathered stone of the well. The princess looked at him, and he looked back at her, a silent witness to her sorrow and the loss of her golden treasure. His presence was not a disruption, but a part of the garden's own slow pulse, a creature of the cool damp and the ancient stone who had appeared from the very heart of the silence. The frog offered to retrieve the golden ball from the lightless floor. In exchange, he asked for nothing but a place at her side, promised to be her companion, to sit at her table, and to rest upon her pillow. The princess, desperate to see her golden son again, agreed with a quick, unthinking nod. The frog dived, his emerald body a graceful, vanishing streak in the dark water. After a long, still moment, he reappeared, the golden ball held firmly. He placed it upon the grass, where it glowed with a renewed washed brilliance, its surface wet and cold from the deep. The princess snatched it up, her heart lifting with the gold, and she ran back toward the castle, leaving the green guardian of the well behind in the shadows. She felt the heavy sphere in her hand once more, its familiar weight returning a sense of order to her world. Yet the memory of the emerald eyes remained in the back of her mind, a quiet shadow following her through the sunlight. But a promise made in the dark is a thread that cannot be easily broken. That evening, as the princess sat at the long wooden table in the great hall, the emerald guest arrived. He did not cause a disturbance. He simply appeared at the threshold, a small, vibrant point of green against the grey stone floor. He reminded her of her word, not with anger, but with a steady, quiet persistence. The king, her father, watched with wise and heavy eyes, decreeing that a word given must be a word kept. And so, the frog was invited to the table. He sat beside her, his emerald skin a startling contrast to the white linen and the silver plate. He shared her meal, his presence a constant, grounding reminder of the deep well and the cool water. The princess felt a strange, growing calm in his presence, a slowing of her own pulse as she watched the rhythmic movement of his breathing. The room seemed to grow quieter, the light of the candles softer, as the green guests settled into the rhythm of the castle. The final part of the promise led them to her bedchamber, a room filled with the soft scent of lavender and the pale silver light of the moon. The frog asked to rest upon her silken pillow, a small green weight at the edge of her dreams. As she looked at him in the moonlight, the princess saw that he was not a creature of the mud, but a creature of the deep and secret places of the earth. His emerald skin caught the silver beams, turning him into a figure of living jade. In that moment of quiet acceptance, she realized that a promise kept is a heart at rest, a light that shines like gold, even in the most profound dark. She reached out and touched his cool, smooth back, and as she did, the final layer of the story began to shift and dissolve. The air in the room became still, the moonlight intensified, and the very fabric of the dream began to expand into a new and dark, beautiful form. The emerald skin shimmered and expanded, the small form growing and changing in the moonlight until the frog was gone, and in his place stood a prince with eyes the color of the forest and a heart that was as steady as the mountain. The transformation was not a loud event, but a silent blossoming like a flower opening in the middle of the night. The curse of the well was broken, not by magic, but by the simple, honest act of keeping one's word. The prince and the princess stood together in the silver light, two souls who had found their way through the dark water and back into the light of a new understanding. The golden ball was no longer a toy, but a symbol of the integrity that binds the world together in a web of silent golden threads. They stood in the center of the quiet room, two figures carved from moonlight, as the night outside remained perfectly still and perfectly peaceful. Like the ball sinking into the cool dark water of the well, you may find that you are now sinking into a deep, restorative sleep. The surface of your consciousness is becoming smooth and still, the ripples of your day fading away into the profound depths of the night. You are moving past the golden light of the sun and into the cool emerald shadows of the dream world. The weight of your body is a comfortable, grounding weight, pulling you down into the soft layers of the mattress, away from the noise and toward the absolute silence of the deep. You are submerged in peace, protected by the cool dark, and ready to surrender to the long, slow currents of the night. Your breathing is slow, your mind is quiet, and the darkness is a vast emerald sea that holds you in its arms. The kingdom is now entirely silent, the castle towers standing as dark silhouettes against the star-sprinkled sky. The gardens are still, the well is a mirror once more, and the linden tree holds the secrets of the day in its quiet leaves. Far off in the distance, the glass carriage moves through the silver mist, its path a shimmering line that leads toward the horizon. The story of the Emerald King has found its resolution, and the peace of the well has become your peace. You are drifting, you are sinking, and you are finding your way to the very bottom of the night, where the gold of your spirit shines most brightly in the dark. Every breath you take carries you deeper into the emerald silence, further away from the world of the sun. You are safe, you are still, and you are home in the heart of the dream. Sleep now, for the water is cool, the promise is kept, and the darkness is your sanctuary. There is only the silence, the dark, and the infinite emerald sea of rest. Once upon a time, in a kingdom where the hills were as soft as folded velvet, and the rivers flowed like liquid mercury under the constant gentle gaze of a pale high moon, There was a small room tucked away in the highest turret of a silent stone castle. The walls of this room were rough and cool to the touch, built from ancient granite that had witnessed the passing of 1,000 quiet nights. Inside, the floor was covered from corner to corner with bundles of dry pale straw. In the center of this sea of amber stalks, a single wooden spinning wheel stood as a silent sentinel. The only light came from a tall, narrow window where the silver beams of the moon poured in like a silent waterfall, illuminating the dust motes that danced in the still, cold air. The straw did not look like much in the daylight, but under this celestial glow, every stalk seemed to hold a hidden, dormant shimmer, waiting for the touch of a master to awaken its true golden essence. This room was a vessel of potential, a high and hidden place where the ordinary laws of the world felt distant and thin, replaced by a deep and heavy atmosphere of quiet expectation and profound stillness. A figure sat before the wheel, a spinner of shadows and light. He did not move with the frantic energy of the waking world, but with a slow, deliberate grace that seemed to match the rotation of the stars themselves. His hands, weathered and steady, reached into a bundle of straw, selecting a few stalks with a gentle, appreciative touch. As he fed the dry grass into the spinning wheel, the transition began. It was not a sudden change, but a slow, visual unfolding. The pale, brittle straw met the whirling spindle and emerged as a single, continuous thread of brilliant, heavy gold. The transformation was hypnotic to behold, the way the dull, earthy yellow of the field grass dissolved into the rich, metallic luster of the precious metal. The spinner's movements were perfectly rhythmic. A slow reach, a gentle pull, and the steady, circular motion of the wheel that remained as silent as a dream. Every movement of his fingers was a testament to the power of repetition, a slow dance of creation that pulled the viewer deeper and deeper into the shimmering heart of the process. The wheel turned and turned, a dark wooden circle spinning against the backdrop of the silver-lit stone. The motion was so steady that the spokes became a blur, a shimmering disk that seemed to pull the very moonlight into its center. As the hours drifted by, the pile of gold began to grow. It did not splash or clatter. It simply accumulated in soft, heavy coils that looked like a nest of fallen stars. The golden threads were impossibly fine, thinner than a strand of hair, yet they glowed with a deep internal warmth that filled the small room with a soft ambient light. The spinner did not look away from his work. His eyes were fixed on the point where the straw met the gold, a point of pure alchemy where the ordinary was being translated into the extraordinary. Every rotation of the wheel was a commitment to the silence, a repetitive act of creation that left no room for the noise of the past or the worries of the future. The room was a sanctuary of focus, a place where the only thing that existed was the golden line being drawn out of the nothingness of the straw. The room was soon filled with the fruits of this quiet labor. The golden threads piled up in corners, draping over the rough stone ledges and pooling on the floor like liquid honey. The texture of the room had changed. It was no longer a place of dry grass and cold stone, but a sanctuary of soft, metallic light. The spinner continued his work, his hands moving in a path of perfect, practiced geometry. He would take a handful of straw, feeling its rough organic texture, and watch as it was refined into the smooth, cold perfection of the gold. The repetition was a visual lullaby, a series of identical movements that stretched the seconds into minutes and the minutes into an eternity of peace. The spinning wheel was the heartbeat of the room, a steady, unhurried pulse that dictated the rhythm of the night. Every coil of gold added a layer of softness to the room, dampening the echoes of the world outside and reinforcing the high hidden security of the turret. As the pile of gold reached the level of the window, the spinner paused for a brief, still moment. He looked at the vast, shimmering landscape he had created, a mountain of light born from the simplest of materials. In this version of the story, names and identities did not matter. The names of kings, of millers' daughters, and of the spinner himself were all forgotten, dissolving into the profound stillness of the turret. What remained was the peace of the transformation itself, the absolute certainty that something beautiful could be woven from the mundane. The gold was not a treasure to be spent or guarded. It was a physical manifestation of a mind at rest, a soul that had found its rhythm and refused to let go. The spinner reached out and touched the golden pile, feeling the smooth, cool surface of the threads, a texture that was both solid and ethereal. He felt the connection between the moon above and the gold below, a circuit of light that bypassed the noise of the world and anchored his spirit to the eternal silence of the night. Like the straw being spun into the golden thread, you may find that your own worries and the lingering thoughts of your day are being pulled into the spinning wheel of your mind. They are being fed into the rhythmic motion of your breath, emerging not as problems to be solved, but as nothingness, a fine, golden silence that leaves your spirit light and unburdened. The heavy stalks of your anxieties are dissolving into the shimmering coils of rest. You are watching the wheel turn, seeing the blur of the spokes and the steady accumulation of peace at your feet. The room of your consciousness is being filled with this soft golden light, pushing back the shadows and creating a sanctuary of absolute, undisturbed quiet. You are the spinner, and you are the gold, and you are the silent stone turret holding it all together. Every breath you take is a thread of peace being added to the pile, making your internal world softer, warmer, and more radiant with every passing second. The pile of gold is now so vast and so soft that it feels like a bed of clouds. You are sinking into it, feeling the cool metallic silk supporting your weight and shielding you from the world outside. The silver moonlight continues to pour through the window, but now it only serves to highlight the brilliance of the rest you have earned. Every breath you take is a rotation of the wheel, a slow and steady movement that carries you further away from the waking world and deeper into the heart of the night. The kingdom below is a fading memory, a distant land that has no power over the silence of this high place. You are submerged in the gold, protected by the stone, and guided by the moon. Your body feels heavy and solid, yet your spirit is as light as the shimmering threads that surround you, floating in a sea of amber and silver that has no shore and no end. The spinning wheel begins to slow down now, its task nearly complete. The final handful of straw is being drawn into the spindle, the last dull yellow disappearing into the brilliant glowing thread. The motion of the wheel becomes more and more languid, a graceful decelerating that mirrors the slowing of your own pulse. The spinner's hands rest quietly upon his knees, his work finished, his spirit as still as the shadows on the wall. The room is a masterpiece of golden silence, a place where time has finally come to a complete and beautiful halt. The air is cool, the light is soft, and the night is entirely complete. The golden mountain in the room is a monument to the stillness you have achieved, a testament to the power of the slow and the steady. You are resting at the center of this achievement, wrapped in the warmth of the transformation. The wheel stops. The spindle is full. The work of the night is done, and the transformation is absolute. The turret stands as a silent monument to the peace of the small room, a golden beacon in the dark heart of the kingdom. Every thread of gold is now a thread of sleep, binding you to the night with a gentle and unbreakable strength. Far off in the distance, the glass carriage has disappeared into the silver mist, leaving only a trail of starlight behind to mark its passage. The story of the golden thread has found its resolution in your own deep and heavy rest. You are drifting, you are sinking, and you are finding your way to the very center of the golden silence where the world is nothing but a dream. Every cell in your body is now a part of this golden landscape, perfectly still, perfectly calm, and perfectly at peace. Sleep now, for the wheel is still, the gold is spun, and the night is yours to hold. The mountains and the valleys are sleeping with you, tucked under the same blanket of moonlight. The tower is your sanctuary, and the silence is your song. There is only the moon, the silence, and the infinite golden sea of rest that stretches out forever into the dark. Your mind is a mirror of the night sky, deep and vast, and filled with the softest of lights. You are gone into the gold, moving beyond the reach of words and into the heart of pure existence. The world is a whisper that has finally stopped, and the dream is a golden reality that is just beginning to unfold. Safe in the turret, wrapped in the gold, you are home. The weight of the gold is the weight of your eyelids, settling down with a natural and beautiful finality. The spinning is done, the thread is finished, and the silence is your reward. Each moment now is a deeper layer of rest, a further descent into the soft, shimmering dark. The night has accepted you, and the dream is waiting to guide you the rest of the way. You are sinking through the gold, through the stone, and into the very center of the universe, where everything is still, and everything is right. The story is complete, and the rest is beginning. The silence is your breath, and the gold is your peace. You are finally, truly, and completely at rest, in the golden heart of the night. The stories have all returned to that ancient silver sleep, and the great velvet book of the night is finally quietly closed. The golden towers of the high mountains, the emerald heart of the deep forest, and the crystalline caverns of the inner earth have all dissolved into a single, unified horizon of soft, gray mist. This is the sacred place where time no longer exists, a borderless realm where the frantic ticking of the world has been replaced by the slow geological breathing of the universe itself. The outlines of the trees are fading, their heavy branches merging into the hazy twilight, and the paths we once walked together are being covered by a gentle rolling fog that carries the faint scent of distant rain and forgotten dreams. There is no direction here, and no destination. There is only the vast, rhythmic pulse of a world that has finally found its rest. You are standing at the very edge of this misty sea, watching as the last flickers of color and form melt into a beautiful, neutral stillness that stretches out forever into the quiet dark. You are no longer merely listening to the words. You are becoming a part of the story's final, long, and peaceful exhale. The boundary between the teller and the dreamer has vanished, leaving only a shared sense of weightless suspension in the cool night air. Every thought you once held has become like a single leaf, falling into a dark, still pool, creating one last ripple before disappearing into the profound and welcoming depths. You are the mist, you are the shadow, and you are the quiet, expanding space between the stars. The weight of your physical self has been traded for the lightness of the drifting clouds, and you are moving now, unmoored from the shore of the waking day. There is a magnificent sense of release in this final surrender, a feeling of being carried by a tide that is as old as the light itself, moving you further and further away from the noise and into the absolute velvet sanctuary of the dark. Floating, drifting, falling. You are descending deeper into the velvet darkness, where the air is cool and the silence is a physical embrace. Each breath you take is a slow, rhythmic anchor, pulling you down through layers of soft indigo, deep violet, and midnight blue. The darkness here is not empty. It is a fertile, protective space, a cradle of pure potential where your spirit can finally expand into the infinite. You are sinking past the reach of memory, past the reach of your own name, and into the raw, beautiful essence of pure peace. The world above is a fading spark, a distant memory of a life lived in the sun, while here, in the heart of the night, there is only the perfection of the void. You are safe, you are whole, and you are perfectly beautifully alone in the vastness of your own restorative rest. There is nothing left now but the stars, and they are whispering one last, shimmering word into the long corridors of your mind. It is a word that has no sound, only a feeling of total and complete resolution. The stars are ancient witnesses to your peace, their cold white light acting as a bridge between the dream and the deep. They watch over you with a steady, unblinking gaze, ensuring that the path back to the world remains closed until the morning calls you home. But for now, the sun is 1,000,000 years away, and the only reality is the soft, rhythmic hum of the celestial spheres turning in the dark. You are part of the constellation, a point of light in the dark, resting in the center of the great turning wheel of the night. The mist has completely enveloped the horizon, and the stars are beginning to dim as you move into the final, deepest layer of the dream. The last word has been whispered, the last breath has been drawn, and the story has found its ultimate end. There is only the pulse, the warmth, and the infinite, dark sea of rest that holds you now and forever. You are home. You are still. You are gone into the night. Sleep now, for the universe is dreaming through you, and the silence is finally, perfectly complete. One last exhale, one last drift, and then there is only the peace. Everything is finished. Everything is still. Sleep. Why? A final, barely audible breath of words now drifts through the quiet air, softer than a shadow, gentler than the night mist, and as light as the fading memory of a dream. Our long and winding journey through the high golden towers, the emerald heart of the silver forests, and the deep silent stone of the ancient mountains has reached its natural and beautiful conclusion. Every story has been told, every shimmering thread has been spun into gold, and every sacred promise has been kept in the silence of the dark. The world of movement and light has completely receded into the distance, leaving you in a sanctuary of absolute, unshakable stillness and profound peace. There is no longer a path to follow, and no more words to hear, for you have reached the ultimate destination of your soul's deepest need. You have arrived. You are home. The darkness is a warm protective embrace that knows your name and guards your peace within. A steady, ancient love. Your breathing is the only rhythm left in the vast universe. Slow and steady tide, pulling you further into the infinite. There is nothing left to do but surrender. There is nothing left to be but the dream itself. Every cell is quiet. Every thought is still. Every star is watching over you as you sink away. Sleep now. Sleep. 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 Sleep.